If you have ever said, I used to tolerate this food and now I don't, this episode is for you. This is one of the most common reasons people start removing more and more foods over the time, often without fully understanding what their body is actually responding to. The problem is not that the symptoms appear, rather that we assume what these symptoms mean. Hello, my name is Daniela. I'm a nutritionist dietitian and I work with adults, especially expats, international students, or digital nomads. My focus is helping people to understand their hunger, energy, and food choices that supports their health without extremes or rigid rules. In both clinical practice and scientific literature, food allergies, intolerance, and sensitivity are different biological mechanisms. However, in everyday nutrition conversations, they are often grouped because they can look similar from the outside. Here's a key point. The symptoms alone doesn't tell us what is really happening. Many people remove food, feel better, and assume that food itself was the cause. What evidence shows is that symptom relief come from different factors, reducing fermentable load, improving meal timing, or lower stress around eating. So the first question I want to leave you is, did the food change or did the context change? From a clinical perspective, improvement does not automatically equals a diagnosis. Let's start talking about the most defined and clear category, the food allergies. International guidelines define it as an immune-mediated condition, most often involving LGE antibodies. At a biochemical level, what occurs is that a food protein is identified as a threat. LG antibodies bind, mast cells are activated, and histamine and other inflammatory mediators are released. This is why the reactions can be rapid and systemic. A key characteristic is that it is onset within minutes and 2 hours. Also, very small amounts can trigger the symptoms. Let me tell you a small story about my experience with a food allergy. For 5 years, I was allergic to shrimps. I used to get swollen eyes every time I eat, even by mistake. And the reaction was almost immediately. Another characteristic of the allergies is that they are reproducible. So every time you eat this food, it's very probable that you're gonna get this reaction. And I used to have that for a while. Symptoms may involve skin, gut, and the respiratory system. Other classic examples are the peanuts or the shellfish. Having a food allergy is almost like a non-negotiable. And even if you like the food, it requires avoidance and sometimes medical management. We could also say that the food allergies are like an error in the system. Why this error in the system? We don't really know sometimes, and we can make some associations that can also lead to improvement in the symptoms, like family history, age, just to mention some of them. Here, I want to share something and not as a recommendation. My food allergy towards the shrimp disappeared after several exposures. Today, we know that the allergies can be not only prevented but also treated, not always with a success, but we know that, for instance, in food allergy towards the casein, the protein of the milk, can be improved with neutralized exposures. That said, if you want to improve your food allergy or eliminate it, I would suggest to get medical support. Let's go now with the food intolerance. It is both biologically and clinically different. It does not involve immune activation. It reflects digestive and absorptive capacity. A well-documented example is the lactose intolerance. To understand this, let's make some things clear. First, the lactose is a carbohydrate, a simple carbohydrate. To digest it, the body has a specific enzyme called lactase. When this enzyme activity is reduced in the small intestine, the lactose cannot be digested. So it reaches the colon or the large intestine, draws water, and it is fermented. The typical symptoms: bloating, gas, discomfort. The reaction in food allergies can be mortal, but in food intolerance can be uncomfortable. In most cases, food intolerance depends on quantity, on timing, and the overall context while you digest it. And this is the same reason why food intolerance doesn't require a lifelong elimination. Sometimes, by decreasing the level of stress, the person can also improve the digestion of that food. Let's move now to the last category that causes confusion and the most unnecessary restriction: food sensitivities. From a scientific standpoint, a food sensitivity is not a single diagnosis or condition. Large reviews published in journals such as Gastroenterology or the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that the IgG based food sensitivity test is not a valid diagnostic tool because they reflect exposure, not a pathology. What research suggests is that it's a functional response and that it is influenced by multiple systems: the gut brain signaling, microbiota composition, low grade immune activation, and nerve system and stress regulation. This reflects a common experience. Someone can tolerate bread during vacation, but not during a busy week at work. The food hasn't changed, but the context has. This doesn't necessarily mean that there is a rejection to that food. It means that the regulatory capacity is reduced at that moment. At this stage, we need to talk about elimination diets. To be clear, if you have tried an elimination diet before and you felt better after it, that experience is valid. Elimination diets can be useful when they are temporary, structured, and supervised. The problem arises when the elimination diet becomes a default solution. The risks associated with this type of diets are: first, they reduce the dietary diversity. They also increase the risk of micronutrient inadequacy. And last but not least, the misattribution of the symptom relief. Another question that I have for you is: did the symptoms improve because the food was removed or because the overall load and the stress were reduced? There is also growing evidence that repeated restriction can increase food anxiety and make the reintroduction harder over the time. So elimination should be a tool, not a lifetime framework. A useful way to approach food reactions is to ask the following 3 questions. Is the reaction immediate and systemic? It means, can I observe the reaction? Then the allergy must be ruled out. Second, is the reaction dose dependent and primarily digestive? Then intolerance is likely. And third, is the response delayed, variable, and context related? Then the focus should be regulation over restriction. Research consistently shows that improving digestion, routine, and overall dietary structure often restores the intolerance more efficiently than removing the food indefinitely. As a conclusion, I want you to remember that the useful question is not what food I need to remove. A more helpful question is, what does my body need more support with right now to tolerate a food better? Remember that the body is adaptive, not fragile. Most food-related symptoms are not signs of a failure, but a sign that one or more systems need support. If this episode was useful, you're welcome to subscribe to the channel. Next episodes will focus on evidence-based nutrition, regulation, and sustainable health strategies. You can write in the comments which food is making you feel uncomfortable right now, or if you have current reaction to any food. If you think that this episode can be helpful to someone who is navigating a food reaction or confusion around elimination diets, feel free to share it. Thank you for watching the episode and see you in the next one.